Hello, I am Bentham and welcome back to Factorio Towns. In the previous episode we started implementing electric furnaces. We put them in Colbury and we've just finished putting them in Chipton, and that means that there's a lot of coal around that doesn't have any sort of purpose anymore. There's a bunched up tin of chest and there's this belt that we've got rid of here, so we're going to need to put it somewhere, and I decided that I'm going to implement a little bit of a backup power system. Well, not exactly power system, it's a backup coal supply. It's power for the trains at least, but we're going to set up a little chest here that can put some coal onto the belt in case it empties out. Because the thing about this particular coal belt is it is highly unreliable. It's based on a filtering system, so if the iron's not moving, then no coal will come through, and you can never guarantee that the right amounts of either will be used up. So we've got a little backup system there. We're going to put the rest into the car, and then later on we can go find somewhere to put it all, because we're going to go upgrade the other places as well. We're going to go over to the main base and swap this over to the electric furnaces, which is going to require a lot of deconstruction. This is sort of our largest furnace assembly, but a lot of this, once we get rid of it, we don't need to put it back. We only need to replace enough so that we can supply ourselves, because originally this was tasked with doing all the signs. It doesn't need to do that anymore, and of course it's slowly being phased out as more and more stuff gets done in dedicated towns. So we'll just put in, I think we're gonna put in 6 furnaces for each. It's going to be 8 because we want to have 2 sections for making two pairs of furnaces for making steel. Is how it's going to work. So we'll clear away the various belts and inserts. It takes a while. We keep ending up filling up our inventory with stuff, just because there's so many things sat on the belts that we end up with stupid amounts of plates and ore. We can also now get rid of this particular belt here, this one for copper, because there's no longer any copper consumption going on over that at the assembly over there. The only thing that's used up is iron and steel. At the moment we're putting in the steel manually, just because we want to have a sort of a control over how much is being made in the way of engines. But yeah, it's gears and pipes that are being produced there, so that'll be fine. It'll only use a small amount. Well, in fact, it'll most of the time use no iron at all, because the system will be shut down. It's only ever going to work if we set it working by taking some stuff out and putting some other stuff in. Anyway, we've nearly finished clearing this away now. It was good timing as well, because some of the steel smelting will run out, and I keep forgetting that I need to go resupply it, but now it won't anymore, because we're going to switch it over to electric, and then we can just leave it to do its thing. The only purpose then for this place is to supply us with stuff. We don't even need to worry about sort of keeping it running. It's got its ore supplies coming in from Chipton still, and they are all fine. At the moment it's probably using up more materials than Chipton is, because Chipton is pretty much dead now that the advanced circuit production is finished. There's no longer any need for circuits, apart from when I hop over and grab some. But yes, we're going to clear away the old road that we've got here. There's no reason to drive up here anymore. I'm going to leave the actual, like, the floored, well, I'm going to leave the production area floored still, because there's no particular reason to get rid of that. And it looks nice, and we've got plenty of stone available. So yes, we've cleared away everything, and we'll put in our brand new, completely different electric furnace assembly. We can clump them all together. Don't have to worry about power pole supplies with these, because there's only, well, because they're bigger, and you will need one inserter for each. And then what I'm trying to do is sort of empty out some of the supplies we've got, because we've ended up with so many extra stacks of iron ore and iron plates and stuff that I'm trying to sort of get as much of it back into the system as possible before it starts filling itself up. Because we don't want to be walking around with a bunch of extra steel and iron and things. Particularly considering how full our inventory is already. I'm no good at keeping a control of how much mess there is in there. A lot of it right now is belts, actually, mostly because I just deconstructed a bunch when I was getting rid of this system, and it's not going to take as many belts being put back to get this operational again. So I'm going to have to find somewhere to put all these belts. I guess I will eventually use them. That's always how it works out. Which is why usually I don't bother so much about having extra structures on me, because they're always going to get used up eventually, even if it's just like to be upgraded into better ones for future, for the distant future, like having a bunch of belts. Eventually they can either be used as belts or upgraded to blue ones and not worried about anymore. Anyway, the assembly is now set up, and we have 2 furnaces outputting each different kind of stuff. So we'll just connect up the lines. They've ended up swapping round sort of by accident. I don't even know how I did that, or even if that was actually what I did. But we've ended up with the copper going underneath the iron belt. But we're not quite ready to connect it all up yet. First of all, we've got this steel chest over here. Takes a while to transfer it over because it's completely full. It's only a wooden chest, but it's got a lot in it, and my inventory is not doing well at the moment. Still got all the extra, the copper and iron and stuff. But anyway, we'll try and get rid of some of the iron by putting it into the assemblers here. The good thing about the way the assemblers take on resources is that often, if you put extra resources in, they will then start assembling the item. The only reason they stopped was because there was enough of that item already. I'm also dumping a bunch onto the belts just to try and get rid of it that way. If the belts are filled out, then we've more filled up the system. But yes, there were the gear production had finished, so I put a bunch more iron in, and like another stack. It all got turned into gears, and that meant I could put another stack of iron in, so it works out well. But yes, we managed to get rid of all of the copper now. There's a little bit of iron ore as well that we're just going to dump onto the belt. I could have used like a chest and a splitter to do this instead, but I just wanted to get it dealt with nice and simply. It does take a little bit longer to sort it out, but it's not a problem at the end of the day. And we'll put even more iron plates into the production there. I don't remember if we managed to get rid of all the iron or not. I think we do in the end. But our copper supply is still not great. We filled up both of those, both of the furnaces with it. And I don't think we actually put any into the assembler for ammo, which was a bad idea because that would have been another stack's worth of room. But the next place we're moving on to is the set of furnaces in Redport, which we're going to upgrade as well, and they'll have a bunch of copper as well, so we can try putting copper into the copper wire assemblers and things like that over there. But anyway, we've got it operational now. The system kicks in and all the things fill up and move around. And we can leave that to it, just hop over whenever we need to resupply. No need to worry about bringing coal or anything, it's fantastic. So over to Redport, where we're going to do the same thing. We're going to swap out the 4 steel furnaces we have here for 4 electric ones. And then we're going to try and empty out our supply of copper into the various systems here. So while that's going on, let's talk about the name of the new iron town. We're setting up a town for the production of iron plates. It has its own dedicated supply of iron ore for now, but one day it'll have it delivered in. And I asked for names. The interesting thing about it was that it was surrounded by trees, and I decided to keep as many trees as I could for a sort of, well, for the look of the thing. It's quite cool to have it all sort of shrouded in trees, and we're going to see more of that today as I start putting in the actual smelting for it. But we have had many name suggestions. In fact, I believe we have had 110. And I have the list here, so let's give it a go. We've got Ferris Hill, Ferris Woods, Ferris Sea, Ferris Shire, Ferris on Track, Ferris Town, Ferris Vale, Ferrum, Ferrum Woods, Ferramart, Ferraria, Ferringham Green, Ferrite Fields, Fairville, Fairwood, Ferrist, Ferringham Forest, Fermville, Fairwick, Fairwick Gate, Fairwood, Feetown, Feeville, Feewood, and well, it's hard to say this one. It's Fenchurch Street, but with a dash after the FE, for reasons. Ferret on the Wold, Ferret Woods, Ferret Forest, Ferret Hills, and Ferret Farms, liking the ferret names there. Ironville, Ironwood, Ironside, Ironclad, Ironbark, Irony. I like that one, that's quite clever. Iron on Smoke, Iron on Trees, Ironton, Iron Brewery, St. Irons, Tryon, Wrought Iron Pass, Blackwood, Bloomwood, Slagwood, Hardwood, Fairwood, Shenwood, and Euronwood. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. I know that sometimes, for whatever reason, I think it's like an old-fashioned thing. You might have a Y instead of an I in iron, so they've said, but I don't know how to pronounce it, whether it's just Ironwood or it's Wironwood or Euronwood. I don't really know, it doesn't matter. Smelting Wood, Orwood on Sea, Woodlington, the Woodlands, the Steelwoods, Greenmill, Greendale, Greenstove, Greensboro, Greenwich, Greenpeace, Rustwood, Rustingham, Rustshire, Rustport, Corrodia. That's quite clever. Sounds quite good as well. Pine Mine, Mine on the Wold, Abandoned Mine, Treeland, Tree Smoke, Ashwood, Ash on Leaves, Ashton, Arborian, Arborea, Oakville, Oakham. I like the oak one. Didn't actually use it, but it is quite a nice one to use. Isengard, Eisenbaum, Box Hill, Caer Iron. It's like Caer Iron. Caer Iron. I don't know. Carnegie, Carpinus, Cobaltimore, District 26. 26 being the atomic number of iron. Fire Hazard, Forestville, Fort King George, Future Coal, Herne Hafan, Hornbeam, Lignum, Metalton, Metum, Aurora, Playton Garden, Redstone Clearing, Rigidton, Sideros Siding, Smeltersville, Smelton, Smogleaf, Starking, Starkton, Station 26, Steelbon, Steelton, The Foundry, and Verdant. So there we go, that is a lot of names, and a lot of them very clever. I like the range of different words we had for all the theme of iron and of trees. So yes, 110 names, I think. I don't know if that's like the most we've had. I think we might have had 200 in like the first town name or something. I lose track. But yeah, that's quite the list. People came up with all sorts of different ideas for this one, which I quite liked. And in a moment, when we actually put the sign in, I will reveal the name from that list that I chose. So let's get back to what's going on screen. As you can see, I'm setting up a furnace assembly. I've tried my best to keep them sort of hidden by the trees. I've spaced them out a lot, the reason being that this is sort of, it's my standard like 16 furnace column, but what I've done is just leave spaces in it, so there's only 8, and what that means is that we can have lots of trees between all of them, to help sort of keep them concealed, and I quite like the look of it. Some of them aren't so great, but you can see like the ones at the bottom in particular, that one on the bottom left, you can barely see it, but it's definitely... it's sort of, you can see them, but at the same time they're quite concealed, and it looks quite cool in that way. And now we're putting in all of the belts. This is a little bit messy, but you can also be a little bit less destructive with this, because there were quite a few trees I had to get rid of with the furnaces, whereas there's a bit more leeway in the belts. They can be moved around, because the only thing that matters is that there is some form of belt, standard or underground, that is alongside a furnace, and then there needs to be the ability to also build an inserter next to it. So I'm using tons of underground belts to sort of hide the belt line as much as possible. If we ever upgrade this and like fill in the gaps, that'll all fall apart. In fact, the whole thing will fall apart at that point, and it won't be shrouded in trees anymore. But for the moment, I'm keeping it nice and spread out, and with the theme. At some point, the trees will die. I haven't been noticing in other Factorio saves that the trees have actually been dying quite a bit in some sort of pollution-heavy areas. So I'm now seeing sort of firsthand the whole pollution model for the trees, which is quite cool, and it'll be interesting to see how much these are affected. I forget like if there's actually that much pollution caused by the electric furnaces. It's definitely better than the other ones, but I don't know whether it will be enough or not to actually cause some serious damage to the trees. We shall have to see. And, of course, in future updates, they'll start doing ground pollution as well, in which case we'll most definitely see what's going on, because everything will go horrible and, I don't know, grey or whatever, or green, but like a not very good green. But yes, we've got all of the belts in place, now putting in the power poles, and it's really annoying how that's turned out, because everything was sort of really well hidden, and then the power poles are, like, sticking out at the top of the tree line, and there's power lines going everywhere, and it really sort of ruins it. It's a bit annoying. I'm hoping that we get substations sooner rather than later, and I can get this all hidden away, because with all the gaps between the furnaces, it'll be easy to get like 1 or 2 substations to cover all this. But anyway, with that all in place, we can now put in the supply of iron ore. The belts are already in place to bring the smelted iron plates and load them into the train, though at the moment nothing's powered. In a moment I'll connect things up properly, and then we'll get some power running through. But there we go, putting more underground belts, trying to hide this one as much as possible, doing a very good job, mostly because it's sort of in shadow from other trees, and eventually we managed to get it connected up to the lines, and I like it. It's working well, because the trees have a much larger coverage than the area they're actually in. I think they occupy a 2x2 space maybe, or it could be something different. The box makes it look like it's a 2x4, but I'm not sure if that's entirely true. But because not only of like the positions where they're in the way, but also of the shadows they cast, you can do a really good job of hiding a lot of stuff in them. And it's very easy to lose something in the trees when you're building, and not be able to find it again. Or when you do find it, you can't actually mine it because there's trees in the way. You have to mine the trees to get to it. There are a couple of places where that causes some trouble, where there's one tree that needs to be cleared so that I can put something in. And then I go to mine the tree, and it turns out I'm mining a different tree that was in the way of that tree, and then I have to mine that tree too. And that causes some gaps to appear and things like that. But anyway, you can see the furnaces are now underway. I put a couple more miners in. I've decided to go against my previous idea of just getting rid of the trees on the deposit itself. What I'm doing at the moment is just finding what gaps I can in the trees and putting the miners there. And I'm ignoring any sort of gaps between like the coverage of the miners. I can sort that all out later. Once the iron has actually started to run out here, we'll start worrying about the iron that we've missed because of the trees being in the way. And it makes things more organic, I guess. You're more sort of... You're working within the confines of what nature has given you rather than just destroying nature and building what you want there. It's sort of like the argument about landfill mods and whether you should use them, because it's sort of... The water sort of sends you in certain directions, you have to work around it. Whereas if you landfill, you can just make your perfect factory, but you make the same perfect factory every time. But yes, anyway... we're trying to work around the trees as much as possible, though we have stuck to a fairly standard design with the position of the, what are they called? Smelters, furnaces, that's what they're called, with the furnaces themselves. Anyway, I dealt with a little bit of a base, just in the north. It was very, very close, far too close, I was thinking, so I quickly dealt with it. There was only one spawner, so it was quite easy to deal with. I just had a backup turret to deal with the biters while I could focus on the base itself. And we put in some little defences here. We've just got this little bit of a defensive wall around the end of the furnace column with a turret on either side. We also have the 4 turrets that are still in place around the station in the sort of standard positions that I do. And I should probably be fine. I mean, if it's not, we'll find out. They'll at least fight back and alert me to any dangers going on. And we can quickly get over there and deal with it. We definitely need to push back the biters that are there right now, because they're far too close. Particularly considering the safe distances that I'm considering in the rest of the map so far. I'm making sure that the biters are like miles away. And in fact, looking at the map during this episode, I forget when I do it whether it's already happened or not, but the pollution has receded massively, like even more than before, because there's just so little going on in the factory right now. There's only personal supplies to me. Eventually things will get moving again. We're getting there. There's a couple more towns that need doing. Basically, I want to do a copper town, maybe also a steel town, or we might just I don't know, we might just have I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I ran out of words once again. Not bother with a town for steel now, but do one later. What I'm looking for is a stone deposit, really. I want to find a stone deposit, and preferably one that's near an iron deposit where I can set up a combined steel and stone town. And until that happens, I'll probably just go for backup supplies of steel, bring some in from other places. Maybe even the main base, though I haven't actually got a station there. I don't know if it's worth building a station just so I can deliver the steel. I could always set up some steel production in the new iron town. But anyway, we've made our way back to the main base. So I forgot to finish what I was saying. So yeah, we're going to make a copper town. We'll probably not bother with a steel town for now, but we'll do later. We're going to make a blue science town and then a town for the rest of science. And at that point, we'll have the factory moving again with a constant purpose. But yes, we're back in... I called it the main base just then. It is very close to it, so I guess it almost counts. But I'm sort of wandering around sort of the central area, or I guess you could call it the west, because it is the westernmost town, I guess, Colbury. But we got rid of the spare coal we'd ended up with. We built up a bunch of it from getting rid of all the old furnaces. So I just dumped it into the boilers, and it'll slowly get used up there. And it'll help with the coal supply in Colbury, because I've noticed that is starting to run out. One of the miners is nearly out. Most of them are still pretty much fine, but the deposit isn't very big to begin with, and it's only a matter of time before that runs out entirely. Anyway, we're back in the Iron Town. We've got 2 orders of business to attend to. The first one is setting up a radar. I need to remember to do this in all of my towns, because it's a huge help with extra scanning and stuff. I'm still looking for that stone deposit, of course, and various other things. I want to scan out as far as I can without sort of putting the radars in particular danger. Just to find good places to put towns. The more spread out, the better, the cooler it is. But yes, that is our first order of business. I put a couple of turrets by that, because they usually find that radars are biter magnets, and they very quickly come over and start wrecking them. So 2 turrets should help with that. It's also good for general defense. I think this town can probably hold its own. We might want to build like a fort town. I was thinking about that, having dedicated towns that are just for defense, in sort of areas where a lot of biters can come through, and we can have all sorts of different cool names for those. But anyway, the second thing we're doing is the nameplate. I have picked my name from the list, and in the end what I did was go for the popular vote. By the way, what I'm doing here is I'm building it under the trees. The reason being that you can see it perfectly clearly, as someone in the comments of the last video pointed out, through the trees on the map, so it doesn't matter too much. But yes, I'm working out how to do the W, being very indecisive. In fact, looking back, I feel like that design that was just on there was probably better, and this one that I settle with, I maybe don't like so much having the center bit of the W as high as the rest. But yes, the name that I have chosen is Ironwood. And it was by far the most suggested name, which is mostly why I went for it. There's also other cool things, like it reminds me of the Edge Chronicles, because they had ironwood in that as a thing. They're saying that ironwood is a term used in real life for particularly hard woods. But yes, the names of the people who suggested it, we have Chaos Man 98, Philippinch Dogmatics 15, liking the reference there, Ace Edmonds, Mr. Jacob Wilson 24, Satis, Pyro Dessou, Beppo Venerdi, and Edison 700. So thank you all for suggesting the names, and thank you everyone else for suggesting all names that you came up with as well. No particular suggestion for today's episode, but I think next episode we'll be starting on a new town. So I shall say goodbye, thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time.